Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sydney and today I'm going to be talking all things about traveling the world as an online English teacher. So right now I am on a 5-month trip throughout Southeast Asia and I just recently started teaching English online, I believe about 5 months ago. I started when I was at home and now I am taking that job out on the road for traveling. The company that I work for is called VipTeacher and it is such an amazing company to work for in my opinion and from my experience. It allows me so much flexibility and the opportunity to work and travel. So for the work hours with VipTeacher, it is very flexible. There is no minimum work hours that you have to work. You can work for 30 minutes if you want in 1 month, or you can work 70 hours in a week, whatever your heart desires. But there are peak times where you can work. So on average during the week, you could probably get somewhere up to 3 to 5 hours of work during weekdays, maybe even more. I've never worked more than 5 hours during a weekday though. But in the contract, there is no rules about how much you work. So if you feel like taking a vacation and not working during a certain time, you can do that. Now let's talk about the pay. The pay is a very interesting structure and kind of hard to explain, but I'll do the best I can. There is a tier system where for each tier you're on, you can make different amounts of money based on how many classes that you teach that month. I would say on average, I will make between $17 to $20 an hour per class. 17 if the class is not short notice. If the class is short notice, I would say I make closer to $19 to $20 on average. While traveling, I open a lot of my slots short notice actually because one, it gives me the flexibility if something happens, like there's a power outage or I make plans with someone. But also I do short notice because you get an extra $2 per class, but only some classes qualify, so you won't get that extra pay on all of them. The least amount of money you can make per hour is, I believe, $15.60, and that's if the class is not short notice and you're at the first tier with the first classes for the month. So the pay very much does fluctuate. I think the most I have made in an hour was $22, and that was towards the end of the month when I had taught a lot and the classes were short notice as well. So the pay varies a lot, but I would say on average it ends up being somewhere around $17 an hour, maybe $18. It really just depends on you if you're doing short notice classes and how many classes you're teaching per month. So you can decide how often you get paid by the company as well. You can choose weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. I choose bi-weekly, so I get paid every 2 weeks, but you can do whatever your heart desires for how often you want to get paid, which is very nice. Now, I am in Southeast Asia right now, so I am on the time zone that aligns very well with China, which I don't think I mentioned that, VipTeacher. Most of the kids are from China. There are children from other countries as well taking these classes, but on average, it's mostly China. I am from the US, so when I was teaching in the US, I always taught super early mornings. Like I would start at 4 or 5 a.m. and I would finish sometime between 8 and 9. So since I am in Southeast Asia right now, I teach my classes in the evenings. Now let's talk about weekends because you can work overnight if you're from the US and work pretty much all day. Weekends, you can work a lot of hours. But for me at least, I don't really want to pull an all-nighter. By being in Southeast Asia, I can work as many hours as I want on the weekends. I'd say on average, I'd work 7 to 9 hours on the weekends and just really get a lot of classes in because why not? For me, it really varies how much I teach, honestly. It depends on how much I like the location that I'm traveling in, the people I meet, and all that good stuff. Now, for me personally speaking, I teach not the most consistently. At the beginning of my trip, I was teaching very, very consistently. I was teaching almost every single day, But now I have not been teaching very much because before my trip I did save enough money where I don't need to rely on the job for it, but I do enjoy the job, which is why I still do it occasionally. Okay, now we're going to be moving on from talking about the job itself and moving on to travel costs. So I would say on average out here, I always get my own apartment, and that is because for work I have to talk. And you could go to co-working spaces, I guess, in theory, but that's just, for me, out of the question. I'm not going to be doing that because I feel like it would disturb others. So I get my own apartment, which costs for me, on average, I would say $600 a month. Some places I have stayed are $400 a month. Other places are $600. It just depends where you're staying and how nice the place is. In terms of food, I eat a lot of Western style food, and that's because I have a lot of food allergies, so it's just easier and safer for me to eat Western style food. And I also cook a lot of my own food, which I think both of those are a lot more expensive than just going out and buying the local food, because the local food out here is usually like $1, $2, very cheap. But for me, on average, I spend about $400 a month on food. Next is activities. I would say on average $300 a month goes to activities, and that includes things like if I want to go to a workout class or a tour or little entrance fees for certain things. And this is just a rough estimate. Of course, every month it varies, but this is just an average that I have found that I spend while traveling. Next is flights. Now, to get out here, I used airplane miles for my flight, so that was free. My flight home, I'm also doing the same thing, so it ends up being free. I'm taking 3 internal flights though throughout Asia, and each of those is costing me about $100, which I think is on the more expensive side, but that is because my bags are overweight and I have to pay extra for that, so that's cool. Next, let's talk about Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is your best friend while teaching English online, because without it, you will lose your job. I will say VipTeacher is very strict with being late, cancellations, and having IT issues. I have not run into that issue, so I feel like it's also a game of luck and life situations happening. But yes, keep that in mind if you are the kind of person who often has to cancel things last minute, or your Wi-Fi goes out often. That might not be the best. Now, when looking for a place to stay with good Wi-Fi, I personally use Airbnb. You could also use booking.com or other apps, or even find an apartment in person once you arrive in the country. But for me, I use Airbnb, and I always look at many reviews specifically about the Wi-Fi, and I will always message my Airbnb host about the Wi-Fi speeds, and I always request for them to send it to me so that I can check to make sure it works properly. And so far, I have not had any issues. I also stay in each Airbnb for 3 weeks to 4 weeks, which also usually gives you a discount on the place you're staying, which is really nice. And it honestly makes it easier to work. You don't have as much stress with figuring out Wi-Fi. And I love slow travel. I think it's so much better than being go. So for me, by doing this, it allows me to work and not feel as guilty about working when I could be traveling. You know what I mean? Okay, now let's talk about some other things. I really do love this lifestyle that I am living, and maybe I will do another trip where I live life as a digital nomad, or maybe I won't work. Whatever my heart desires. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I also work on cruise ships, and I will be working on a cruise ship after this trip. So I make a lot of my money from there, so I don't really need to work while I'm traveling, but I can. I honestly am working on my YouTube channel right now, so that's what I'm focusing on. The main thing I really want to do is I would love to teach English in a foreign country. The main one that I want to teach in would be China, maybe somewhere in Europe. I'm not too sure yet. We'll see how life goes and what I decide to do, but for sure at some point I want to teach English abroad. All I know for me is that I always want to be able to travel, and if I teach abroad, that still counts as traveling. So that's the plan of what I want to do with my life, honestly. Also, I have a referral code for VipTeacher, so if you're looking to apply for the company, I will put it here on the screen, and I'll also leave it in the description below so that if you are looking to apply, make sure to add in the referral code. But anyways, you guys, that is all I've got for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed and you learned some useful information. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Maybe I'll make a Q&A video because maybe you have more questions. I don't really know. But overall, I really love how this lifestyle allows me to work and travel. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!